You need to understand this about all the leaders of the West, including in America, your administrative state, politicians, entertainers, educators, whatever the case may be, and everyone at the World Economic Forum. When they get together at these conferences and in private moments, they talk about who the enemies are. Everyone has enemies, right? Who's the enemy? And I need you to understand this. They're not having some big conference right now, some private one off camera, discussing, China, big threat. They're not having these private meetings and actually discussing Russia as much as they like to show they're against Vladimir Putin. Well, let's get the Russians. They're not discussing Russia. They think the enemy is you. You, your freedoms, that meat you want to eat, that car you want to drive, you even want to be able to say whatever you want. That's the true threat to these people. That's the true enemy. And that's the one they admit frequently they intend to overcome.
We have the ability to collaboratively build a more peaceful, resilient, inclusive, and sustainable world. But to do so, we need to overcome the most critical fragmentation. And the most critical fragmentation is between those who take a constructive attitude and those who are just bystanders, observers, and even go into the negative, critical, and confrontational attitude.
Well, it's just the World Economic Forum. No. The FBI director's there for a reason. They've penetrated the cabinets.
What we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets.
Oh, they've penetrated the cabinets. As I mentioned, FBI Director Christopher Wray is there. Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, is there. Democrat Senators Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema are there. Republicans are there. Brian Kemp of Georgia. Maria Salazar of Florida. And it is interesting. They bring in a Republican like Maria Salazar, and we're going to talk about this for just a brief moment. Because Maria Salazar, of course, got up there on stage, and what'd she say? Remember, there's no thought to country. What they bring Maria in? Well, they brought in Maria to talk about all these borders and citizenship. That's ridiculous. Our illegal immigrants here in America, what they really need is dignity.
We need to also give dignity to those people who are in the country. And those are the people that I represent. We're talking about 13, 15 million people who are, most of them Hispanics, I would say 85%, who speak my language, look like me, and sound like me, that are contributing with the economy of this country, and they live in the shadows. So it's time to seal the border, like she said, put order, let's see who comes in and who doesn't, and then turn around and give dignity. That doesn't mean path to citizenship. That means to include them and make them dignified members of our community.
Thank you.
Give dignity. Let's make them dignified. You see, this brings me to my point about people and why they choose to go to these events, why they choose to become part of the system. Because if you were to sit Maria Salazar down and hook her up to some kind of a lie detector and ask her, okay, what does that mean? We need to give dignity. Okay, what? What does that mean? She wouldn't be able to tell you. She has no idea. Maria Salazar has been given marching orders. That's why she routinely says some of the dumbest, most thoughtless things imaginable. Maria Salazar and so many of the people who are part of the system, they choose to become part of the system simply because they're too stupid and talentless to get anything really achieved in their life without agreeing to become part of the system. Maria Salazar didn't fly coach back by the bathroom to get to Davos. Guarantee you Maria Salazar was on some private plane. This is all expenses paid, fancy 5-star resorts, steak dinners. Maria Salazar would never in a million years be able to achieve such things without becoming simply part of the system. So Republicans and Democrats alike, they go to the World Economic Forum for access. They want access to things. And when they discuss you as the enemy of the state. You are, and as the one who's holding them back, you stupid bystander. I really need you to get this particular part, because if you don't, you'll never, ever, ever be able to take these people on as an anti-communist. You need to understand these people see themselves as the good guys. They see themselves as the good guys.
And when you stop and think about it, it's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial to think about, quote, saving the planet. And if you said that to most people, they think you're just a crazy tree-hugging, lefty, liberal, do-gooder, whatever, and there's no relationship. But really, that's where we are.
Just a select few saving the planet. But if you see yourself as someone who's saving the planet, let me ask you, what would you do to save the planet? Well, you know what? I take that back. Let me ask you something, probably an easier question. What wouldn't you do if it meant saving the planet? The answer to that question is nothing. You would do anything if it meant saving every person on Earth, right? How many would you kill if it meant saving the planet? It's important for you to ask that question, because I promise you, these people, they think about these things. And that's why when they fly all over in private jets and eat steaks they tell you not to eat, that's why you're absolutely missing the boat if you call them all hypocrites. They're hypocrites, they're hypocrites. They don't see themselves as hypocrites. They see themselves as kings and queens. Of course, the king flies in things you don't get to fly in and eats things you don't get to eat. You're not important. You're a bystander, remember? No, peasant, you don't get to fly like Bill Gates flies.
Are you the right messenger on this? Because you fly private planes a lot, and you're creating a lot of greenhouse gases yourself.
Yeah, I probably have one of the highest greenhouse gas footprints of anyone on the planet. My
kind of ironic.
Personal flying alone is gigantic. Now, I'm spending quite a bit to buy aviation fuel that was made with plants. I switched to an electric car. I've used solar panels. I'm paying a company that actually, at a very high price, can pull a bit of carbon out of the air and stick it underground. And so I'm offsetting my personal emissions.
Well, of course, he can fly. You, though, live in the pod, eat the bugs. Stop talking about your freedom, which brings me to one final thing. I brought up that we have Democrats there. Democrat Senator Joe Manchin had a really, really honest moment. Do you remember like 5 minutes ago when I sat and told you that these people gather around and they talk about the enemy? And who did I tell you was the enemy? You. And what did I tell you they're so concerned about? You and your freedoms and your saying whatever you want to say? Here's Joe.
The problem that we have is the open press system and basically all the platforms. So if you're able to have 5 platforms, social platforms, that you can basically personify the extremes, somebody who is extremely right or extremely left, and it seems like that is the majority speaking. They're not the majority, but they're basically driving everybody to make a decision. What side are you on? Are you on this side or this side? And in America, there's only one side, the American side. It's not the Republican side or Democrat. We should be coming together to solve the problem.
See, the problem is there's just too much press. The problem is this open system. If you would shut up, stop being a critic, then everything will work out. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right.
Support the First TV today and get instant access to exclusive specials like Who is Ron DeSantis, the history of FBI scandals, and America's worst presidents. Visit thefirsttv.com/support or download the First TV app to become a supporter and start watching today.